The Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.
Welcome in, Campo and Joe. We come in on a Tuesday feeling like winners again. It's been a little bit of time, 4 weeks, in fact, a 4-game losing streak, but back in the win column and a chance to play for the AFC South title. Welcome in, Campo and Joe. If you're on Facebook joining us, we totally appreciate it. If you're picking us up anywhere, listening to the podcast or watching us, that is the head coach, Dave Campo, Joe C. from XL Primetime. Happy New Year, first off. Let's start off that way.
Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, it's a new year. And hopefully it's going to be a good year.
Yeah. Does it feel like a new year because they finally won?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, no question about it. I mean, it's like a basketball team. You know, you got to see that shot go in before you can get a run going. And that's what we're at right now.
Yeah, last year was a December to remember. This year is a December to remember in a lot of different ways, right. But the 4-game losing streak is over. So we're going to hit a handful of different things, looking back at the win over the Carolina Panthers, and then look ahead because there is so much at stake. But let's just talk about ending the L's and getting back in the win column against a bad football team. But it doesn't mean they couldn't have figured out a way to lose to them too. They go with C.J. Beathard instead of Trevor Lawrence because he had the hurt shoulder. And C.J. didn't play bad. He really didn't.
No, he had a good ball game, and I think part of that is because, number one, he's a pretty adequate backup, but number two, he's been getting reps for the last 4 weeks.
Well, that's true too because he's been getting first-team snaps.
Yeah, and really, to be honest with you, Trevor is run into some problems in the last 4 weeks simply because he's not been practicing.
Yeah.
So to me, that he was pretty efficient. He did what they asked him to do. He didn't turn the ball over. When he didn't have anything there, he took off and ran, which concerned me a little bit because he went down on that left shoulder one time, and that's the thing that's been bothering him is his off-field, offside shoulder. But I thought he had an excellent ball game. And the other thing he did was he got the ball to the playmakers, and that's partly the offensive game plan, the scheme or whatever, but Etienne touched the ball a lot. Ridley touched the ball, and Ingram touched the ball, and those are the guys that need to get the ball in this case right now.
And this is not a shot at Trevor. This is a fair criticism, I think, and I think you can learn by watching a backup. Is C.J. Beathard as good as Trevor Lawrence? Hell no. I think we all know that. But at the same time, he is a guy that says, I know what I am. I know what I'm capable of. I'm good enough to play in this league, but I also know my limits, which meant play smart football, make good, quick decisions, and get the ball out and do it accurately. And that's really what he did.
Well, they kind of went back, in my opinion, to what got us to the point of, playing for the South Championship.
Right.
Early in the year, we started, not, taking the profit, getting the ball where it needed to be out of the quarterback's hands, do those kind of things. And then all of a sudden everybody was clamoring, including us and the media, about getting the ball down the field. Now they started holding the ball a little longer. Our pass protection didn't go. We were running the ball fairly early in this season. Then we couldn't run the ball.
Right.
And now we go back to this game and we ran the ball at least effectively. And, had a big run, obviously, that helped us. Yeah. But we ran the ball effectively, and the quarterback took a profit and got the ball where it needed to go. And that's all we need to do because we have playmakers that can make things happen.
All right, so, again, I'm going to try and be not a negative Nancy, but a voice of reason, kind of give you things that you still have to think about and acknowledge. Just because you got back in the win column doesn't dismiss these things. This is another 30 minutes of football without a touchdown. They didn't get in the end zone until after the intermission. Travis Etienne, beautiful run down the right sideline, and then they're able to get in the end zone again with an Etienne score. But that's now, let me see if I can do the math here, Coach. That's 90 minutes of football without an offensive touchdown in the first half against the Ravens, against the Bucs, and now against the Panthers.
Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, but at the same time, in this past ball game, they were able to get a lead. So you got the combination of the defense playing pretty well, and now you at least are getting the ball down the field, and your special teams are coming through. Remember, our special teams, our kicker hasn't been that good. in the losing streak. He missed 5 out of 6 field goals, I think. So it's got to be a combination. And Doug said it best when he came out at halftime and when they had the discussion with the reporter.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we got to score a touchdown here in the second half. And, of course, the first snap of the second half that they had the ball was the long run to ETN. And I think what they did was they got the ball on the perimeter and they got it to one of their playmakers, and he came through in that case. So we got to start putting the ball in the end zone. I think, when you look at this football team, we've not been great in the red zone. We've got to improve there as well.
And McManus gets the leg working again, which was also very important. You want to see as many pieces working offensively as you can possibly get, special teams when it comes to knocking through field goals, and they were at the very least able to do that. So the C.J. Beathard, Trevor Lawrence argument, which has actually been kind of popular on social media, Trevor, whenever he plays well, they laud and love him. Whenever he doesn't, they bash him. And then the backup quarterback, which is always the most popular figure on a team, he comes in, he plays well enough for them to shut out an opponent. And they're like, oh, let Trevor rest. Be careful what you wish for. Just because you saw CJ do it once at home doesn't mean he can do it on the road against those Titans.
Well, listen, the Titans are going to be looking at this, and they're going to say, okay, we're going to start crowding the line of scrimmage, which is tough against the run, but it's also tough against the short passing game if you start crowding.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's what they're going to look at, and they're going to say, if Beathard goes, we're going to force him to throw the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got some guys that can rush the passer. So, you'll start jumping up a little bit on those routes.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to run a couple, and they got them. They were doing the same thing a little bit once the game got going.
Mm-hmm.
The Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And Agnew ran a double move for a big play.
Yeah.
So that's what's got to happen if they start doing that, and hopefully we can do that as well.
All right, so when you think about the mission that the Jaguars had is we've got to figure out what we're doing wrong. What was the first thing you think they course corrected going into this game to make sure that they any number of things? And I bring up Cam Robinson coming back and getting that offensive line at least a little injection of physicality, intensity, because they needed to ratchet it up.
Well, it's just an attitude that Cam brings, and of course, we've been a critic of him in certain things. I mean, he's not a perfect player, but he does have that toughness mentality. And I thought Leon Searcy had the best comment in the fifth quarter and on prime time when he said the only tough thing this offensive line has done in a while is throw the helmet into the end zone. And that was him.
Yeah.
So, he brings a little bit of a toughness to the situation. But if you say, what did they do to course correct? I believe what they did was they committed to the run.
Okay.
And that's why Bigsby got some snaps.
There you go.
Dearness Johnson is a little banged up.
Yeah.
So Bigsby got his operation. Did he play great? But it was a commitment to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we have to do. Our team is not built on being able to pass protect on drop back passes all day as not are the Titans.
Right.
And that's why they are going to run the ball against us.
Yeah.
They have to get something established in order for the quarterbacks to execute.
All right, so when we take a look at both sides of the football, I think we need to recognize Cam, him being inserted back in the lineup was really, really important. Jamal Agnew getting back in the lineup was really important. Now he's injured again. We don't know what's going to happen with him. That guy, just as soon as he gets to make a play, something negative happens. You feel for him. Getting the run game going. These are all extremely important. What about Calvin Ridley, getting him involved earlier? Because he and Evan Ingram right now, that's their offense.
Right. And that's one of the things that Beathard did and the coaching staff. They got the ball to the playmakers, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And one of them's Ridley, one of them's Ingram and ETN.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that have to be going. Now, Agnew, to me, obviously that was an advantage having him out there. Hopefully Zay Jones comes back this week, and he's the Agnew.
That'll be a boost.
To put the extra guy back in there that has a chance to make some plays. The other guys are young. One of the things, I believe that this is big, and they have to continue to do this. They simplified for Beathard.
Yeah.
But I believe they have to do the same thing if number 16 comes in there. We can't be doing all these check-offs and all that stuff because we got young receivers out there. And you know, that's how you get routes, not being in the place where the quarterback thinks he's going to be. That's how you get the interceptions. All that was eliminated. And now we're going on the road, which is going to be loud. I think the best thing we could do, whichever quarterback is in there, is just play a clean game. You know, get the ball where it's supposed to go. Let our guys make some plays. Get Ridley early and Ingram, and use ETN and use the other backs to kind of give him a spell and keep him fresh.
Yeah, and Tank Bigsby can be an integral part. I said this on XL Primetime at the end of the week. I'm getting the feeling, the word, that he's not fully prepared, and that is a negative, okay? That's knowing situationally what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. All those things matter. But at the same time, this team is desperate. And the Dearness Johnson injury had to pave the way to at least get him back out there. And why not, Coach? As many shortcomings as he may have, you still need to find something. He hand it off and just see if he can gain some yards. He did that in college.
Well, the thing is, who was more talked about by everybody on the team and the media in preseason, in training camp, other than Ridley?
It was Calvin and Tank.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, you know, he made some mistakes. They got down on him. He had a mistake in this game when he was in there. He went the wrong way. Beathard was burned up. So that is an issue. And that's what they have to work through and make sure that he's totally prepared when he goes into the football game. But he showed some things in training camp to me that shows that the guy belongs here. Now they have to trust him a little bit because we can't go into this game, which to me is a playoff game.
Right, it is.
And you can't go into that with just one running back. Yeah. They have to have a couple backs to kind of take a little bit of pressure off the one guy.
Yeah, I can go on and on and on with the teams out there that have more than one guy, and the list is long, and it also includes rookies. And so you've got to be ready when your number is called. Just take Raheem Mostert, who is about to set the NFL record for rushing touchdowns. He's not available, and they go to Achane, I like to call him, but Achane, and they put him right in there, and he makes a hell of a catch in the back of the end zone. And so those types of guys need to step up and be meaningful, especially down the stretch, as thin as this football team is. Let's get to the other side of the ball. And let's bobblehead Josh Allen, okay? Because we finally get to bobblehead our guys in the right way.
Yeah, we got to get that going.
Now, Josh Allen has had himself a season. So let's recognize that. He is among the top 2 or 3. I'll pull the number up. I think he might be second in sacks. Bottom line is he's balling. He was able to take advantage of a suspect line, and he got to an inexperienced quarterback. And that's huge for this football team.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, you have to affect the quarterback, and we haven't done that we've hurried some guys, but we haven't done that on a consistent basis, although the 2 edge rushers all of a sudden have 25 sacks.
Yeah, combined.
You know, and that's pretty good. I mean, you know, when you look at that, but, you know, you have to affect the quarterback. Josh has had a tremendous year. I'm happy for him, to be honest with you, because I think he's one of the good guys that really cares and works at it.
Right.
Now, he hasn't been as successful in the last couple of years, but all of a sudden he's turned it on, and hopefully that's going to be a thing of the future because I don't think they can let him out of here.
No, they're going to have to pay him, and there's really no getting away from the idea that you need to draft good players and you need to keep them. And they have said goodbye to a lot of guys. Why? Because they were drafted higher than they should have been. They didn't perform the way they should have been, and you didn't pick up options on them, and you just said, see ya. This is a guy that you really don't want to let out of your building. You only have so many guys that you can count on to make plays. Is he going to be expensive?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's like we've had this discussion the last handful of weeks. Would you rather pay Josh Allen? Would you rather pay Calvin Ridley?
Yeah.
They're going to have to pay Josh Allen long term.
Right. I think he's proven that, you know, he's one of the guys that can affect the quarterback. Now, do I think we need to add a guy in the offseason? Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think Travon Walker's made a tremendous amount of progress. Listen, if we'd have said he was going to have 9 sacks going into the year, we'd have been very happy about it.
I think we're the only two in America, or at the very least all of Duval, that said, what did we got in at 9.
9, and he's there.
And he's there.
And he got one more game, plus the playoffs, hopefully.
He could get to double-digit sacks. And look, this wasn't easy, but it's something you and I have argued. It's something that I think we believe in. He is a developing player. And I think he actually was motivated by watching Aiden Hutchinson Saturday night.
Yeah.
Now, Hutchinson hasn't done everything every game either, but there's no question this is a measuring stick test between number 1 and number 2 overall, and he answered the bell. I appreciate that.
The Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.
I watched Hutchinson every play. I was in Dallas for
that's right. Yeah.
a game against Detroit. The one thing he's got over Travon is quick twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So you see him get some sacks and some pressures off of attacking an edge and then spinning.
Right.
Well, that's not Travon. Travon is going to get off. He's got much better get off on the ball right now than he had early last year and early this year.
Right.
Which gives him an advantage because when he does that and the tackle sets, then he bull rushes. He can knock the guy back into the quarterback, and his effort is what separates him from a lot of other pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can he get better? Absolutely, because he's got the athletic talent to be able to start using his hands more. I talked with Randy White out when we were out at the Cowboys induction with Jimmy into the Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
And Randy White used to come in and teach us all the karate moves and all that with our defensive line. He says a lot of people don't do that enough. Well, once he gets that down, he can be really effective, and they're using him more inside on the guard, and no guards can handle him. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, see, that makes sense. If you can figure out, and this is a Mike Caldwell check mark, give him credit for figuring out the best way to handle a raw specimen, because that's what Travon Walker was coming out of Georgia and what he probably still is, right?
Yeah, I would have started a little earlier getting him inside on some of those guards. But
as a true defensive man, I agree.
And I love Caldwell. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, when they've run stunts and stuff to get him on the, coming inside, he's pretty darn effective. Yeah. But I think he's improving outside as well, and that's where we've got to make some hay.
This was a theme that we all talked about. You led the charge as far as where you think he might go in the offseason, and it's taken a little bit of time, and I'm not closing the book at all on whether or not this guy, what the total package is. I've questioned it. I think I have the right to question it.
Oh, sure.
Because it was the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
But at the same time, when you look at it, and let's also add to this because I want to get back to Josh Allen's numbers, Travon has helped Josh Allen.
Yes, absolutely, because you can't just zero in on the one guy. Travon makes enough music on the quarterback to where you can't just automatically start doubling the other guy and not taking care of him. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons they had such good success in this last ball game is that they did bring some extra pressure more than they had up until this ball game, but also the tackles weren't real good on Carolina. Well, guess what? The Titans tackles are not very good. So those guys have to come through this weekend and get pressure on whichever quarterback is a starter. That's going to be really important in the ball game.
All right, so this time of the year, and I'm just kind of glancing at the numbers, I did not think, I will admit that Josh Allen's name among sack leaders would be ahead of Khalil Mack, Danielle Hunter, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons. I mean, I can keep going. The only 2 guys that are ahead of him right now are T.J. Watt and Trey Hendrickson.
Yep.
And they're only a half sack higher, and Hendrickson's having himself a season as well.
Yeah. And listen, those names you're naming, Myles Garrett, what do you have to do with Myles Garrett? You got to double him.
Yeah.
What do you have to do with Mack? You got to double him.
Yeah.
And that's part of it.
That's a good point.
That's part of why he may be ahead of those guys, because they're not doubling Josh like they do those guys on a consistent basis. And a lot of it is who you got next to you and on down the line.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you got to deal with multiple guys. Highsmith on the other side of the Steelers front is having himself a year. And there's definitely, we can go on and on and on with some of the other guys. So let's get to the other part of the defense. Interiorly, they're starting to get a little healthier. That's certainly helping. That's allowing Josh Allen to have his opportunities off the edge. And then Devin Lloyd played a little bit better this past week. Now, granted, this is not a great Carolina Panther team that we face. Let's be real here.
Right.
But at the same time, they did what they were supposed to do. They shut out an opponent and did it with a good defensive game.
You shut out an opponent in the NFL, you've done some really good things, because that's very, very difficult to do. Especially, this game could have been a really interesting game, because, Carolina won their game 2 games prior to it, and then they scored 30 points in the last one. And the quarterback had arguably the best game of his short career that week before.
I threw the stat out. He was the only quarterback in the NFL starter that has every game was under 200 yards until the week against Green Bay.
The week before, right? And some of that is a scheme, because they changed a little bit with the new coordinator after Reich was let go. But that could have been an interesting game, and we didn't allow that. And a lot of it was the way the defense played, but offensively, we got off to a lead, and that's going to be important going forward.
All right, so let's get to the Tennessee Titans. Just spend a couple of minutes before we're done as far as what's at stake. And I will go through a couple of playoff scenarios, but this is all you really need to know, is this week 18 against the Titans carries the same intensity, the same stakes as a season ago. Last year, Tennessee came into Jacksonville with a chance to take the AFC South. Jacksonville, with that great play from Rayshawn and Josh Allen, they were able to win it. Now they've got a chance to go up to Nash Vegas and beat them up there. Battle of the Vills, as I like to call it. And they've got the AFC South title on the line again.
Yeah, this is the first game of the playoffs, just like it was last year.
Yeah.
In my mind, we won 2 playoff games last year. The last game and the first game of the playoffs. Fair. So, that it's going to be the same scenario. We've got to play our best football game. We've got to make sure that we understand that execution is the key. Stay clean. Don't make a lot of mistakes. Just play solid football. Balance up on offense as best you can.
Right.
And then on defense, you got to affect the quarterback. And you got to be willing to put some pressure on the quarterback like they did last week. Not just rely on your front 4 and sit back in zone defense, because, they have some receivers with Burks and Hopkins and Moore. Those guys can make some plays. So you've got to and if Tannehill goes, he's going to be better this week than he was last week, because he's going to get a full week of practice if he's the guy.
Right, if he's the guy. Levis was tackled, foot folded over, not quite sure where the injury is at, but basically I think Vrabel might have said in the presser that he's basically a 50-50 guy.
50-50, yeah. And actually that's a bad thing for them.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, who's going to get the reps? And I think that helps us, to be perfectly honest with you.
All right, so a couple of things when we look ahead to this game. The rivalry is the rivalry. And even though we started off this conversation mentioning what happened here a season ago when the AFC South is on the line, I really believe the change that took place last year was early December after they got their butt beat by the Detroit Lions. It was the first time since 2013 that they had gone up to Nashville and won a football game. And that's when I think everything turned the course in the right direction.
Right. And that's a tough place to play, especially in a rival game. I feel this team, like I said, they saw the basket, they saw the ball go through the net, and now it's time for a run. And, I fully expect them to come after us, and I expect us to go after them. And I think our football team feels a little bit better. They see good things on film this week of what they did when they play the game they're supposed to play. And I think, obviously I feel good about going up there and playing.
And if you were trying to project a stat line for Trevor Lawrence. Let's say he's healthy, he practices, he plays. The stat line needs to read closer to, I think, 65% completion than 55% completion. It needs to read closer to 2 touchdowns versus 2 turnovers.
Right.
I mean, those have to be the things that are in his head right now. Don't cough up the football or make a bad throw, and get it to the guys.
Yeah. And I think that's the approach that they did with Beathard, and I think that has to carry over. And, again, I'm hopeful that Cam Robinson being available helps us on the pass rush.
Yep.
And they've got to find ways to run the football, and then don't turn the ball over. That's the key.
I'm going to look, but I think the line, it started around 3.5 points. I think it's moved to 5.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people think right now, maybe they think Tennessee's packing it in. As Leon likes to say, Cabo plans have taken over the brain. But you say no to that.
No, I don't believe that. Not when you're a division rival in a big game.
Nothing is easy against them.
No. And they're going to try to feature Henry in his last ball game, maybe in Las Vegas, in
Nashville.
Where are we going? Nashville.
I like to call
say
it
Nash Vegas.
Yeah.
It made me, I got a little thrown off there. But, I think they're going to feature him, and I think they'll get his best. And I think if Tannehill plays, that might be his last game playing in Nash Vegas as well.
And Mike Vrabel.
Yeah. There's some question there.
All right, I got to ask you about your trip to Dallas. But before we do that, New Year's resolutions. Do you have one? Because Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Ask for a little more in 24. What did you have one?
Yeah, I did. Absolutely. I said I'm going to get back to walking and get myself a little bit better, more healthy.
Now, listen, there was a time when you were in a sweepstakes inside the family. Who could lose more LB?
Absolutely. And I'm going to work towards that. I'm not going to be quite as a contest, but I am going to work to be healthier. And I walked the last 2 days.
Good.
So I've got to start. I said the first I'm starting on the first, and I did.
Well, my resolution is I'm never going to run again. So, I mean, look at this, Coach.
Yeah, you got a cane and everything over there.
I've got an old lady cane that TLD, the lovely Diane, went and got from the Lost and Found. Because honestly, Coach, I was lost.
And she found you.
And it's ankle tendonitis from running. So I'm not going to run.
Well, I'm not running. I can tell you that right now.
But I'm going to obviously try and stay in shape.
Right.
Get the cholesterol numbers down. Now, I know you love a French fry, but if both of us can kind of knock a few of those out.
Yeah, see, I have a little advantage over you. You still drink the beer.
Yeah, I love the beer.
I don't. Yeah. So I've got a little advantage over you.
That is true. All right, real quick.
Yeah, but you got the age advantage.
Let's finish up with your trip to Dallas.
Yeah.
What a fun time. They finally brought Jimmy Johnson into the Ring of Honor. Jerry Jones, you old man, it took you way too long, but it was a nice celebration.
It was, and guys, don't get nervous. I'm a Jaguar fan.
Yeah, he is.
Okay?
Yes, he is.
But I am a Cowboy fan when they're not involved with us. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I was with them for 18 years. Going back, there were probably 30 of the players that we had in the Super Bowls were there in an event for Jimmy. That was fantastic. Listen, the only time they didn't like me in Dallas was when I was a head coach. When I was an assistant coach, I was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it still is like that. I was on 4 TV shows, and I was on a bunch of podcasts with the Cowboys Network and the local news station. Yeah. So it was really fun. I had a chance to get around a lot of guys. I got around a lot of legends, the Michael Strahans, the guys from the Fox crew, the Howie Longs, and all the guys that were in the Ring of Honor, Darren Woodson, Bob Lilly, you name it. Cowboy greats, Randy White. It was fun. Tony Dorsett, who I started my Division I coaching career with the University of Pittsburgh with.
That's cool.
So I had a blast. And I also have 2 girls that live there still, and their children, my grandchildren, got them out to dinner.
Yeah.
It was just a really, really good time, which was great. It made me feel good.
That's awesome. That hit all the marks, which is great.
It did.
Yeah.
And now I jumped in a plane at 7 o'clock in the morning to make sure I was back here in Duval to watch our game and be on the fifth quarter. So don't get nervous.
Yeah.
I'm a Jaguar.
Yeah, with a win as well. All right, so we end the 4-game losing streak. We get to hit our bobbleheads one more time as we are done, and we are hoping that once we dispatch the Titans, we get ready for a home playoff game right here in Duval. Campo and Joe, appreciate you tuning in, listening. However you do it, we'll be back next week.
This presentation of the Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air, fast and reliable AC service.